30%. So our European representatives do not really represent us anymore, but merely themselves. And if there is a quest for a referendum, sometimes as we see now, the political elite fears rejection. So it attempts to avoid a referendum altogether. And those who ask for a referendum are labeled anti-European, anti-democratic, and populist. Now, fear created government without the people. And those who want to introduce genuine democracy are scolded at and deemed petty nationalists. But European institutions without democratic legitimacy are like empty boxes that will not be able to stand the test of stormy weathers. They falter in the face of public anger over burning issues. For previous generations, the Second World War, as Mr. Bolkestein referred to already, was a driving force for European integration. But what will be the driving force of European integration for future generations? For them, the World War is like Napoleon to us. Now, I would not be afraid of a referendum neither in the Netherlands nor in France. And I think that after the sobering experience last time, current leaders would get it through. The referendum has put Europe on the map of public opinion in Holland. It is widely debated for the first time in its history. Now, only Ireland is constitutionally obliged to hold a referendum. And still European Mandarins shake with fear in Brussels. In principle, a European treaty should be referendum-proof. It must be able to stand the test of popular scrutiny. Europe should equally realize that landmarking political decisions, like the accession of Turkey to the EU, has to be referendum-proof. Some leaders, government leaders, have already promised a referendum on this point, like in France and in Austria. So the peoples of Europe have to decide whether they want to have Turkey in or not a small self-proclaimed vanguard. So in the end, ladies and gentlemen, here in Maastricht, the European Empire can only survive as a valuable asset for the next generation if it is solidly underpinned by popular support. That is not populism, that is democracy. Thank you very much.
Last year we had a lecturer who was also very well known in the Brussels area or arena, and he told the story that Brussels is also governed for a part by lobbyists, and because the lobbyists they apparently are very well known in the needs of the various countries, you might conclude that there is still some influence from electorate via lobbyists to the parliament.
Yes, lobbyists, in fact, are very important in Brussels. There are about 15,000 of them, just like the Mandarins. And if you work like I did with the cabinet of Bolkestein in the internal market area, all lobbyists want to visit you. So if you go to a reception, you'll be swamped by lobbyists. And you go home with a huge pile of business cards, and the next day they call for a visit. And what they want to do is to influence legislation. They would like to see the first draft of a directive. They want to know where it is. They want to get access to the experts in the DG. They want to talk to the Director General, and they also want to talk to the Commissioner, or at least to a member of the Cabinet. On top of it, those who are lobbyists, when they visit you, they make billable hours. So that's what the money is about. Now, their influence is fairly big in the Commission, since they will represent either small companies or bigger companies. For example, if you have the lobbyists of the car industry, they're quite influential. So they will go to the DG Enterprise and they will go to the Commissioner, Mr. Verheugen, to make clear that the car industry is very important and produces a lot of employment. So if you produce legislation which goes against the interest of the car industry, you may be on the way to destroy employment. And not only the lobbyists then come in, but also governments come in. Mr. Bolkestein was often called by German ministers, warning him for the last time, in particular with regard to Volkswagen. So lobbyists are really part of the game. You'll see them everywhere, they are specialized. You'll see them in the economic field, in the area of environment, in pharmaceuticals, whatever area you think of, there are lobbyists. They are influential in the Commission, they are even more influential in the European Parliament, because they visit members of Parliament and they will propose to help the Member of Parliament, in particular the rapporteur. And if a certain Member of Parliament is a rapporteur for, let's say, the car industry, then the car industry will visit him and say, sir, we can help you. We can draft amendments for you. And that's what sometimes happens. I've seen amendments which are so complicated, they can never have been produced by the Member of Parliament. They were made in the office of the lobbyists. And then the Member of Parliament he takes it over and integrates it into the text. And afterwards they have a nice dinner, or they meet, or the Member of Parliament will have a very good conference somewhere in Monaco or other sunny places of the world. So the influence on of the lobbyists in the European Parliament is even much bigger, much bigger. So what the lobbyists cannot realize in the Commission, he will then realize in the European Parliament. Now, the difference with the United States is that in the United States, lobbyism is also associated with fundraising, with campaign funding. The lobbyists in Brussels are not campaign funding. They are not paying money to politicians. So if you get a gift from a lobbyist, it may be a dinner or a couple of bottles of wine, or perhaps a trip, but you have to be very careful. As a Eurpean Mandarin, you may not accept any gifts from a lobbyist, only small things, like a bottle of wine or whatever, but other gifts have to be declared. And you cannot, of course, accept trips to nice sunny places. But lobbyists are all the way around, and the current Commission is trying to make a code of conduct for lobbyists and to introduce mandatory registration. Many lobbyists are against it, but still I think it will be realized, because you have to know who they are, what they stand for, and who their clients is. Because otherwise, they go around, they have no idea what they do, and sometimes you meet them even somewhere in the corridor, and it's a lobbyist. And the lobbyist likes to hang around in the corridor, or go to the coffee table, or talk to mandarins all the time, and try to influence them. So I have to say I'm not in touch with lobbyists anymore, because the day you leave the Commission, they forget about you. So I have to pay my lunches myself now.
Hi, I'm a Brit, and as a Brit I was very intrigued by your comments you made quoting your German minister. I have two questions pertaining to the fact that I'm British. You mentioned that there should be more accountability with members of the European Parliament for us to be voted, certainly the President. I was intrigued, I was thinking if the British were to have had a vote on the commencement of the European Union all those years ago, I'm sure it would never have got off the ground. So I'm not very confident that people always know what's best for them, and certainly as a Brit I've only had positive experiences with the European Union. So I'm not quite sure how you could match those two conflicting